there, I'm Nancy from Black Sheep Knitting in Needham, Massachusetts. I'm here in my yarn shop. We're in the town square of Needham, and we hope we produce this podcast usually every week, and we try to give you information that we think will help you be a better knitter, make good choices of yarn and patterns, and show you what's new in the shop. So, new in the shop, as I mentioned that, we're in the process of ordering spring yarns, and we have yarns that are coming in with many more colors. For instance, Sammy, which was one of our big sellers of a DK cotton. It's a Peruvian produced organic cotton, and it's not like any cotton you've ever knit with. It's just soft as all get out. So I ordered a whole bunch of springy colors. Robin's looking for it. It's up there. There's very little left. And modern cotton, which is another cotton that we use a lot, we ordered new colors in that. This is the Sammy, and it just knits up so well. They don't advertise it as being superwash or washable in the machine, but I in fact washed mine in the machine in gentle cycle. One of the new things in the shop is the Knitter's Pride needle gauge, and this is just, I think, invaluable because it has a magnifier on it. So you put this over your gauge and you can see the stitches more clearly. And it also has a needle gauge. So this is a great gauge tool. So get them while they last. This hasn't been received into our inventory, but it will be very shortly. So I wanted to mention that this Sunday is our annual Super Bowl sale. Somebody told me we couldn't say Super Bowl because it was trademarked, but I'm saying it anyway. So, but I don't think they're going to come after a little yarn shop in Needham, Massachusetts, because we said Super Bowl. Yeah, a big yarn shop, Robin says. In any case, it is on this Sunday, February the 11th, I believe, and from noon to 5. We recommend, although you're going to see this probably, some of you will see it before Saturday, this email, we recommend you come in ahead of time with a plan. All the yarns in the shop will be 25% off. And we had some questions yesterday. If it's your birthday month, and can you get the 20% birthday discount plus the 25% off? And I said, no, that's not possible. We do need to pay our rent, so we have to make a little money. But do come in. It will be probably a little crowded and a little chaotic. So we'll try to help you as best we can. There may be some other specials here as well. But come in, and don't feel you have to come right at 12. There'll still be plenty of yarn. After 12, we're here until 5, and things tend to lighten up at about 2 or 3. First 2 hours can be a little chaotic. But come in on Saturday and make a plan. Get some advice on, you know, a sweater you might want to make, or a blanket or something like that. So do come. We enjoy it. It's a busy time, and we're giving you a good deal. So the other thing I would like to mention is an upcoming workshop. And the workshop is a repeat of the Making a Sweater That Fits. Now, again, I've overheard or heard people say to me in the shop that they made a sweater and they'll never make another one because it didn't fit them. Well, there's no excuse for that. And those of us who've knit for a long time or who sew know that one of the reasons that you do make things yourself is that you can make custom fit them. And so I have all the materials or the information necessary to make a sweater that fits your body and looks good on you. There isn't any reason for a sweater not to fit you. And so this three-part, we meet 3 times. The first time we do measuring. So one of the important things about making a sweater that fits is you have to have your measurements. And I'm going to show you how to do that, because people assume certain things about their measurements that are not true. So we do measuring, then we talk about patterns and how to choose a pattern, and then yarns, and then we dig right in. We do gauges, and I think the people that took it last time, we had 2 sessions because it was so popular, and then there were a lot of people who couldn't get in. So I recommend to those people to look at these dates. So the first one will be March 2nd. This is Saturday from 1 to 3. And then Saturday, March 16th from 1 to 3. And Saturday, March 30th from 1 to 3. So that will be, you'll be able to sign up for that as soon as the email comes out, and it'll be online to sign up. So another thing I wanted to talk about, because we're in the midst of this Petite Knit knit-along, which has been very popular, and you still have the whole month of February to participate. You must buy the yarn here in the shop, but the shop is giving you 20% off. But if you want to come on Sunday, you can get 25% off. So think about that. And people are doing great things. We've had great response, and we really appreciate that so many people are interested. And I'll show you my sweater in a minute. But I wanted to, a couple of questions came up, because when people were choosing yarns, and if they were choosing the patterns from Petite Knits, she has a different way of showing you materials and how much yarn you need. And so it's really important that and we had some questions that came up about a certain needle size getting a certain gauge. And if it says it's worsted, you got to look at worsted. No, what you need to look at is the gauge. That's stitches per inch. Now they could say, on here, the one I'm looking at is 18 stitches on a US 7. Well, I wouldn't get 18 inches on a US 7, 18 stitches over 4 inches on a 7. I'd probably need an 8. So what you need to look at first and foremost is the number of stitches over 4 inches. They give you a suggested needle size. Do not say that's not the exact size you need to use. You need to get a gauge. So you need to do a gauge swatch and forget what, excuse me, I have a runny nose today.
This is a 4.
Okay.
This is a 6. This is a 7.
Okay, so I have, I'm going to use Robin's swatches for 2 things today. So this is holding 2 yarns together. This is a fingering weight and a lace weight mohair. And so she's done, in a pattern, she's done a gauge swatch on a 4, on a 5, and then on a 7.
Right. The pattern called for 4.
The pattern called for a US 4. So you can see, and she finally got gauge on the 7. So you can't go, but it's not hard and fast rule that you have to use the needle that they used, because for one thing, they could knit differently than you do or anybody else. And you knit differently from them. So what you really need to do is to do your gauge, do your homework, do your gauge swatches, and then get and use your gauge, this handy dandy gauge, and you can see how this is magnified, and you can read your stitches over.
I was worried about the fabric.
Yes, so the other thing to consider, do you like the resulting fabric? If you want a different gauge, if you find a different gauge is better, then you're going to have to change the size in the pattern that you do. And you'll have to get some advice on that, which it can be done, but the fabric is key. It's, you know, does it drape the way you want it to? Do you like it? And so on. So that's an example of doing gauge swatches. So what I, don't throw those away because I'm going to go back to those. So on her patterns, the Petite Knits, she gives you, oh, there's a fire. The first thing she says in materials is she's got grams. So she says 150 to 175 grams of brushed lace mohair by something. And then in parentheses after that it says 25 grams equals 210 meters or 230 yards. So she's telling you right there how many skeins you're going to need to get, or how much your total yardage will be. So what you're going to do is she's given you the total grams, and she's telling you what 25 grams, how many yards that equals. So you're going to, in this mohair, and you have to think about, you know, what the fiber is, because mohair has a different weight to it. So if you're doing a different yarn, this may turn out a little bit differently. But you can use this as a basis. So you're going to divide your, so let's say we're doing the size that says 200 grams. So I'm going to divide 200 grams by 25 grams, which is what she's telling you the yarn is. Here's another one. I'll go by the second yarn she suggests, which is what we have in the shop, is the Isager Mohair Isager, as Agnes pointed out to me that she thinks it's pronounced Isager. I say Isager. I don't know. But so they're saying that 25 grams equals 232 yards. Very similar. So I'm going to divide 200 grams, which is what she suggests for my size, by 25 grams. So that is 8. 4 times 25 is 100, and into 200. So then my total yardage is going to be 8 times 233.
2 times 8 is 16, so 6.
So it's 2 times and 32 times.
We can
8 times
I'll put it on the screen.
232 yards. Now the other thing you have to then note, because it pays off if you read, it says, note, 2 strands of yarn are held together throughout. So that means if you're going to use a mohair, you'll hold it double. But if you want just a yardage or a gauge of 18 in a single, you know, in one yarn, you're going to, instead of holding something together, such as a worsted yarn, then you're probably going to need half that amount. If you are going to do exactly what she says, which is to double a mohair, such as this is the Isager that she is suggesting, she's suggesting that she wants 18 stitches over 4 inches, which is kind of an open, loose, drapey fabric. If you decide you want it differently, then you're going to have to do some finagling with size and so forth. If you choose to substitute and you decide, because face it, it gets pricey when you're putting 2 yarns together. There's lots of reasons to do it, and I'm going to show you some examples. It's a good way to use up your stash, by the way. But should you go a different route and want to do just a single yarn, suppose you're getting a gauge, well, she wants 4.5, so this is a sport weight, which you might find is too loose. So you might try a worsted weight to get 4.5. Robin, just the sueño is fine. So what you might want to do is do a gauge on a so-called worsted weight, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. This tells me that I can get between 16 and 20 stitches over 4 inches. So it's got a lot of leeway. But you'll have to do your gauge to see if you actually like the fabric at that gauge. But again, if you haven't read your pattern all the way through to see that she's getting her gauge by holding 2 strands together, you're going to have a lot of trouble. So it makes sense. Well, you should do this anyway. You should read through on the materials and read it very carefully, because you can make a huge mistake. If you tried to get 4.5 or 18 stitches over 4 inches with a single strand of mohair, it would be, you know, loose and holy, and you'd think, what the heck was she thinking? So if you're looking at those petite knit patterns, you need to, and it's simple math. Again, if she's saying she needs 200 grams of a particular yarn, then she tells you right here that 25 grams of that yarn equals 232 yards. So you're going to take the 200 grams, divide that by 25 grams, and you'll get 8, and then it's 8 times, because that's the number of skeins she thinks she'll need, 8 times 232 yards. And it's really critical that you take the time to do the math and to read all the way through, because again, this is giving you yardage for 2 strands held together, so that's double the yarn. If you are going to do it just in a single yarn at the same gauge, so you've got to go up, you know, get out of the mohair, and you're going to want to do a gauge at 18 stitches over 4 inches, and that is probably going to change your needle size, and then you're going to look at the fabric. Do you like the fabric? You could be you chose a yarn that just looks too dense at that gauge and isn't going to drape and look the way you want it to do. So it does bear, and again, that's why you do a workshop like the one I mentioned, is to do that homework ahead of time, because the homework could take you an hour. It's going to take you multiple hours to knit a sweater, if that's what you're making. So you want to do the correct homework first to avoid making an enormous mistake on all that knitting that you're going to do. So, and that's why we're here. We're here to show you how to do stuff and how to pick yarns. So I have a couple of other things. I wanted to show you a project I finished this week, and to show you how fun. This is, I didn't finish this week, but this is the Hitchhiker Scarf pattern. It's been around for a number of years, but it's a beautiful pattern, and you can wear it, I think, really nicely. Oops. Like this. You can tighten it, you can tie a knot in it, you can do a lot of different things with it, and it has these sort of sawtooth edges. It's very easy to do, and you're starting with a small little end, and then you're increasing as you go, and what you end up with is, and this is what I just finished, is something like this. I don't think I made this quite as long as they said, but what I did, this is done in the Cardiff cashmere. So if you want to treat yourself or somebody that you like a lot, I recommend the Cardiff cashmere. I think it's about 4 or 5 skeins, and we have these colors. So this would be a good project for Sunday to get the discount. So there's this beautiful sort of cherry red, there's a navy, charcoal gray, and there's a black. So those are some choices. But what I did was I had a self-striping yarn, and I had a gorgeous color. So this was my self-striping yarn. I think it was from Feederbrook Farms, but you can use anything or any gradient that you want. And so I started with that, and then I had bought this gorgeous orange rust color, and I decided to stripe it. So then I striped the other half. And so what you end up with is a fun thing that looks different when you wear it. So I like that idea, that I have two ends are going to be different, and it's a good way to use up, I don't have a mirror, so gosh knows what this looks like. But it's a good way to use up scraps of things. You know, you can just take part of it and stripe it. And had I had the time, I really wanted to finish this and get it off my plate, but I could have ended it with the solid, and I thought about it with the solid orange because I had more of that left, but I didn't do that. But this is how you can take one pattern and do so much with it. And you can see how it's fun, the different colors. Oh, Robin's giving me lots of self-striping yarn here. So this would be a fun one. This is called Infinity Sock from Lane du Nord. And look at the colors in that. You could have so much fun and get a solid color that would go with it, or you could do the whole thing in a self-striping. This is a fingering weight, and I find on the fingering weights when I'm making a scarf, I do anywhere from a 4 to a 6 needle. I do not do a 1, 2, or a 3. I think for a scarf, it makes it a little too stiff. I like scarves that are drapey and loose. So that's one choice. This is another fun one. You could, this is a cotton, so you'd have to find maybe another cotton to do it with, or this would be a great summer scarf. So you could do the whole thing in something like this. And the Hitchhiker, you do not need to follow their gauge. Do your own, you know, thing with gauge. If you use a heavier yarn, it's going to be bigger, wider. If you use a lace weight, it's going to be smaller. That's going to be your choice. Some other fun choices for that. This is the edition 3. This one, they have really imaginative names. Green, purple, blue. And they have, this is called purple, blue, green. Wait, I gotta look at this. Green, purple, blue, purple, green, purple, blue, green. What on earth? Are they the same number? No, and they're two different numbers. Whoa, I didn't know that. That's a little crazy. And this is lime, turquoise, blue.
We have others too.
Then we have others. But this would be a great spring, summer one. And then we, of course, have our favorite Spin Cycle yarns dyed in the wool. This is Afternoon Delight. And we have Out of the Forest, the bright one. This one I love. This is called Burning Sensation. And then this one is called Devilish Grin. So look at these two. They're different. This one doesn't have any of the blue in. You could also take two Spin Cycle yarns and stripe them. You know, do every other row. I pulled out a hat that we had in the shop for a while, and I thought, you know, we don't have the yarn we made this in, or part of it in, any longer, but we have others. And this is called Applegate. And we did it in ultrafine wool and Millefiori light, which we don't carry anymore. But it makes it look like you used a whole bunch of different colors. In fact, it's just two colorways, two colors. So we have the ultrafine wool for the white, and I chose some yarns that I think have longer runs of color. and lots of variation. And I thought, wouldn't this be gorgeous in this yarn? This is called, twist knitted wet sock, and it is a superwash with nylon. So you could use this for socks, but I thought, wouldn't that be gorgeous as a hat? And this is another one of theirs called Sassy Santa. And look at the colors in that. I just think this would be terrific in that hat, in this pattern, because the colors are going to change throughout. And then this is Dirty Santa. So again, this is knitted wet. It has about 420 yards, so you probably could get 2 hats out of this. If you got a skein of this and a skein of this, I think it would make 2 hats. So that's that. The ultra wool fine, we have other fingering weight whites and we have solids, so you could do anything. But I do recommend this. It's a fun project and it's easy stranded knitting. You can see the inside. Look how beautiful the inside. She did such a lovely job on the inside too. So there are no long floats, so you don't have to worry about catching floats. And this is this would be a good beginner project for stranded knitting. So I recommend that. Now, for finally, we've been talking while doing this knit along about holding yarns together. So I thought I would show you what happens sometimes when you put yarns together, 2 yarns. And I'm doing, this one is a fingering weight with a lace, they're calling it lace, Surrey alpaca and silk, which is just uber soft. It's amazing. So this is what the fingering weight looks like by itself, and this is the Surrey, and this is my Petite Knit sweater that I'm doing. And this is what it looks like when I hold the Surrey with it. So it makes just a very soft and tones down this quite a bit, and it changes the gauge. So, and if you look these up, if you look up the Mohair, people can say it doesn't change your gauge when you add it, but it does a bit. So this, now mind you, this is fingering, and they're calling this lace. If I look at my gauge here with my new gauge tool, I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4.5 stitches to the inch, to 5, between 4.5 and 5. And I'm perfectly happy with that. And that on my pattern, which I don't know what I did with my pattern, I think
18
called for 4.5. So I'm right on gauge. But I discovered kind of a problem for me. I used to be a solid medium. I had to sometimes adjust for the sleeves and the lengths, but I've lost some weight in the last couple of years. And so I'm not quite a small, but some medium's a little big on me. So sometimes what I might think about doing is changing my gauge a little bit. So doing a small, but doing, instead of 4.5 stitches to the inch, do 4 to the inch. You know, I could change it up just a little by a half a stitch. It's worth experimenting to see if that works. I'm not sure it will. So that's what happens when I put those yarns together. Then I had some others. This was a sweater that I wanted to do, and this is one of the reasons for holding mohair together with the yarn is it softens it. And this is a very tweedy yarn that looks like this, and it's a rough woolly yarn. So I decided to put mohair with it. So, but I have, and so this is not the mohair I put with it. Uh-oh. Oh, here it is. This is the mohair that I put with it. So it changed it not very much, and you'll see on a bigger gauge, or this is a bulkier, heavier yarn, it doesn't change a whole lot because this is so much thinner than this, so it doesn't change the gauge so much. But look at the difference when I do it with, and I like this so much better that I'm going to tear this out, when I put a white with it. So here's a white mohair, makes this fabric, and if I hold it up next to this, this is, okay, there are two things going on here. This is the yarn by itself, and then this is where I added the mohair. And look at the difference between where I added this taupey mohair. It's just a different color. And the white just brightens it up, makes it lovely, and I decided I want a sweater that looks like this. Did it change my gauge? I'm not sure, so we're going to look and see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So a little over 4, and here it didn't change it a whole lot, maybe just slightly. So in this case, I could expect that if I added some mohair to this, this is going to make it slightly bigger.
So you could use a small.
So if I did the small, then I think this would fit me. So that's what happens when you do that. This, what I'm wearing, is a yarn called, or a pattern called Weir, and it's this yarn, this isn't the colorway because we're out of it at the moment, but this is Wool Addicts called Footprints, and this is a cotton and wool, I believe, cotton wool and polyamide, and it kind of stripes, got lots of variation in it, and so if I put, what I did was I held a light blue mohair with this, and see how this, you have to imagine this, but look at the difference in what it does to the yarn to add mohair. So this got me a bigger gauge with this, and you can, the mohair takes up space, if you can imagine, between the stitches, so you can get a bigger gauge. And you don't want to knit, when you put these two yarns, these kinds of yarns together, you don't want to knit them too tight because you're going to get kind of like cardboard. It's not going to be pleasant. So then I did some other experimenting, and this is a Rowan felted tweed, and this, you can see the difference in the color. So I did, this is the felted tweed with mohair at the top, and the mohair is kind of almost the same color but makes it a little darker, and this is the felted tweed by itself at the bottom. And this just made it softer, fuzzier, lovely. I did, this is another one I did, this is a white yarn, and I added this color, and I think this is the same color I added. This was the mohair all by itself. I don't find them all that pleasant to knit with, but then what I did was down here I knit it singly by itself. Here I doubled it. So it changed my gauge and gave me a little bit more stable fabric. So that was fun. This is all stuff you can do at night while you're watching TV, do something fun with some of your leftovers. This is again the ultra wool in the white, and I added this, held it together, and look how it makes it, and this is called marled. That changed it. I then took, this is another marled which is fun. And this one I just held two different yarns, a white and a turquoise together, and it makes a marl. And then this one is weird because I don't have the yarn to show you what it really looks like. But this, it's a yarn that stripes, and I did this by itself. And then I added that same turquoise yarn, mohair to it. So that changed it a little bit, but not a whole lot. But then I went a little further today, and this one I had a lot of fun with. This is a variegated yarn that I have, and I'm on a size 5 needle. So I started out, and Robin will have to do a close-up of this. The very bottom on a 5 is this fingering weight variegated yarn. I then added this mohair, which I know it's going to say it's the mohair that's in here, but it's not. I added this mohair, so look at the difference in the yarn. So I picked something that was similar, had similar colors to this. Then I got a little bit more daring, and it turns out I really, really like the result of this. I took a navy blue and held it with this. So you would think, oh, would I ever do that? But look at it. I think it's beautiful.
Looks like you did color work.
It's gorgeous. So you can play around with lots of different colors. And, you know, just if you've got mohair, or if you're trying to pick a project, you can do lots of different things. I mean, what would happen if you put this with it? It might be fun. Anyway, I think I have exhausted our time here today. Again, so if you've got time, play a little bit. This took me a half an hour to do this. I cast on 28 stitches, and I just did a stockinette. So we look forward to seeing everybody on Sunday. Scope it out. We can't hold yarn for people if you come in on Saturday. We're unable to hold any yarn for folks, but you can check out what we have. And I'm not sure, we may take orders to order yarn, but we may have to charge shipping if we do. So sign up for the sweater workshop. We want everybody to make sweaters that fit them, that they enjoy wearing, that they don't sit in their closet. That's no fun after you put in, you know, multiple hours of knitting time into something. So I think that's it for today. And enjoy. Today we're filming on a Thursday, and the sun is out. It's gorgeous. So I hope it stays that way. We'll see. So happy knitting, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.